welcome to another show of Each One Teach One. This is Ulon.Life. I am your host, the one and only Esan, all right? And today we have a special guest in the house. He is pretty much legendary in Chicago because he's been doing so many things. But this is the one and only Gerald Hamilton. How you doing, brother?
Hey,
Man,
brother
welcome
Esan,
to welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me on.
Man, exactly. So tonight's theme for you guys at home and on our live is, why has it gotten to the point that so many younger brothers are giving up? And when I say giving up, I mean literally in the sense that they've either trying to take their life, they've gotten back into the drug scene, and I have never seen so many young men, actually get on cocaine and stuff like that. So I don't know. It's just a matter of where are we at right now. So feel free to tune on in and give your thoughts on that. Why are young men seem or appear to be giving up nowadays?
Well, I think a lot of it is, it's unfortunate. I know you connect with a lot of these young men. I've seen you personally do that, Brother Esan, which we definitely appreciate that. But a lot of it is like, human nature. I mean, people feel disenfranchised from things. They just don't feel like they're connected, that, the powers that be are not reaching out to them. And so it's interesting, like I said, as you know, I've raised quite a few of these young men over the years. So I even being old school like myself, I get a little more connectivity to them because I'm with them. They live with me, for a lot of times. So, it's a lot. They feel disrespected, disconnected, and then, like you said, I think a lot of life experiences we get from modeling, and if they don't have positive models, if they're not seeing being exposed to a lot of people's success and they see where it could work, I think if you see it, you can be it.
Exactly. So, and I've noticed, and I've also heard through the grapevine, because of us both being in the street scene as far as helping people and stuff, if I'm not mistaken, you were actually an officer of the law for many years. Did that help you with reaching out, being out there, with these younger brothers and sisters?
Well, I like to think so. As you know, I'm a retired Chicago police homicide detective.
How many years?
I was the police for like 30 years. I even did a couple years out in Park Forest, Illinois, in the suburban department. But my whole time in Chicago was in specialized units, gangs, tactical, plain clothes, and then I was promoted to homicide in 1998. And absolutely. I have a partner that I worked with. His name was David Lemieux. A lot of people know him. He's in that movie, the Black Panther movie, Vanguard of the Nation. He was originally a Black Panther, as I just mentioned. I was kind of, and I don't know, it's quite as noble an organization. Basically, I always like to say I traded one little 5-point star in for another one that had a better hospitalization program.
So in the beginning of your whole thing, you were actually in the streets. Within the streets, I mean, you were doing your thing out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I was with that little social organization and stuff, but it was just, like I say, fun and games to me back in my day. But, of course, I went on to other things. I ended up playing college basketball, full scholarship. Then, eventually I did become the police. And I like to think that was a great way to go direction. A lot of people, I know there's some natural animosity in our community a lot of times toward the police, which I experienced it. I often remind these young people way more than they do. We didn't have all this OPS and all these different, whatever they call them, IPRs and whatever they call them now. We didn't have that back in my day. If you were running around with the whatever, Blackstone Rangers or whatever, then you got what you got. Your mama could go in there and complain about, the treatment that you got from what we considered an occupation army. It was basically, a bunch of big white boys with guns and radios, and, and they kind of policed the community, I think, as a, they had any connectivity to the community. They would come in here and, and they would very aggressively police the community. And so that was one of the things that motivated myself and my partner it's rare for somebody to come from the Black Panther Party, or even the Blackstone Rangers and become the Chicago police.
Exactly.
But you can stand on the sidewalk, as what I like to think, and say, spit, I don't like the police or this or that. That's not effective. That's not going to help us move forward. That's not going to get us at the table, having some diversity in the ranks, people get treated differently. When I was a homicide detective, there wasn't, I was at Area 2, not the old Area 2, the Burge thing, that was before my time. But even still, I was there, it was predominantly white male detectives. But guess what? They treated those prisoners, no matter what horrendous thing they may have been accused of, they got a lot better treatment when you've got a number of brothers and sisters who are equally ranked in that room, So it's not an old boys club, so you can't just come in there and I'm going to just snatch Brother Isan and throw you across the room or hit you in the head. No, they weren't going to do that because they know it wouldn't be tolerated. We became members of an organization called the Afro-American Patrolman League, and the motto is, I am my brother's keeper. And that's like I say, so we used to remind people all the time, we don't work for the Chicago Police Department. They give us a paycheck and we appreciate it, but we work for the community. And there was nothing stopping us from doing that, whereas the police, you have so much discretion. If I catch your little son with a joint, I can criminalize it, or, I can, in some communities, they'll take your son to you and say, hey, this is what he was doing. They're like, hey, you knucklehead, blah, 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 knock it off, But in our community.
That's going back to the old guys that would take
that's it, In our community, a lot of times they'd be quick to criminalize and put the handcuffs on them, and,
So, Gerald, what actually, how did you get into the, I guess you could say, the humanitarian activism field? What made you start, seeing that you were, say on one side of the fence, what made you start reaching out besides your job to these young men? Because tonight's theme is, about the young men. So let's focus on that. What made you want to help these young men?
Well, basically because that's the population that most needed help. But I have to say, I've raised over 100 young men and some young ladies in the early days since going back to the 70s. When I say raise them, they lived in my house. So it wasn't like I'm a mentor to you. No, they were, it was at one time 6 or 7 guys there that didn't have fathers and mothers in their life. And they became part of Hamilton House. And later on.
So that's the name of the facility, Hamilton House.
Again, people say that all the time, Hamilton House. Oh man, it's not a facility. It's just a home. It's my home. But it's over the years, it's become well known on the South Side, over there on South Shore and 77th, because it's just been an oasis, I would like to say. I built like a full court basketball court, lights and things like that. So it wasn't just the kids that got raised in the house that lived there. It was the community too, So yeah, it was something that I felt was a need, and later on I started specifically dealing with the kids that had gotten into the criminal justice system, or as they got a little older, they get this media stigmatization. I think of, these are the dangerous or the bad, because they're 13 and they're black. I'm just, really. But I actually was able to bring a few of them home from the penitentiary, and they became my sons and lived at my house.
And I know that I've actually met some of these young men, and the way they reverence you, it's just amazing. Like, they literally look at you as being their dad. Because you carried them at a time where obviously they didn't have a father figure, but you were actually there, and they really stuck to you like glue, And they told me, there's a lot of times they would joke and they say, yeah, he get on my damn nerve, but man, I love that man, because that man was the only man that was there for me, That must be a great feeling.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and I love, having, Father's Day over there is off the chain, obviously, but the biggest thing, like I say, it's really not just about me. It's really about just, providing them a safe, secure environment where they could thrive. I mean, if you throw seeds on fertile ground, they will grow.
Right, exactly.
And that's what people throw them on the concrete, or maybe they won't. So that was kind of what I found, giving them some structure. I've chastised them when they're wrong.
Right.
Just like a good parent I think should, but also make time to pat them on the back and
Right.
stuff. And sometimes it's as small as, man, Eson, you the best dishwasher we ever had here,
Right,
man. I like the way,
love.
they don't get a lot of that. They get a lot of, a lot of them have been subjected to a lot of trauma in their life.
Right.
It was actually it's a licensed foster care facility. So I mean, it's state licensed. So
Right.
that allowed me to actually get children like I mentioned about those 3 guys I was able to bring in from the penitentiary. I mean, it's the craziest thing. If your son did a burglary, and then the little guy with him was a ward of the state, so he didn't have a father or
Right.
mother, and they both went there, and then you would say, hey, well, you did the crime, I guess, you're sitting there for 3 months. Then after that 3 months, your son would come home to you, and then you would raise him up, and that would be in the rear view mirror. He would
Right.
learn this lesson.
Right.
But guess what? His co-offender, that kid that's the foster kid, that 3 months come, then 6 months come, then 8 months come. They will not let them out of the penitentiary.
Oh, okay.
And when I say the penitentiary is right here on on Western and Lake Street.
Right.
Yeah, and I didn't even know. I was the police
Right.
for 30 years. I didn't know there was a penitentiary. The average age of them kids in there is 15 years old. So I was on the front page of the Tribune. A lady called and asked, "Would you mind coming talking to these kids because they're really in trouble?" And Miss Renetta Hunt, beautiful lady.
So the Tribune.
She just happened to read it, but she was very involved in a lot of programs. So she asked me if I would come talk to these kids at the IYC,
Right.
and she liked the penitentiary. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I guess I got to take a little road trip.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I knew
Yeah,
about the
Chicago.
Artie home. I
Right,
didn't know there was
right.
a penitentiary in Chicago.
Right.
It's right there,
I did not know
and it's
that
there
either.
right now.
Put it
And the
up
kids are in there. When you go there, they'll take you
So it
up
gotta
on.
be for younger people.
Yeah, it's a youth,
Okay.
youthful population, but they're in a penitentiary, Illinois Department of Correction. Make no mistake, and they're not going nowhere. So I would come and talk to them initially, and then one of them was a ward of the state in that situation I was telling you. Had long since served a little time that he should have, but he couldn't go anywhere. So they're just
Right.
caught in a limbo. And the state looks at it like, well, state's taking care of you here. We're feeding you. If we put you out in the foster home, but nobody wants to take you in the foster
Right,
home
right.
because, when we tell them, oh, what's this guy here? Oh, he's here. He's just getting out of jail for armed robbery. A lot of these little old ladies don't want to touch him. I don't have any problem with it. I'm just like, please, And so 3 of those kids ended up becoming my sons. And, going on to bigger and better
Right.
things. I made them complete their education and things of that nature. But,
So real quick, I was noticing one day, and I was looking. I was in the actually in a bookstore, and I come across a book, and I noticed they started talking about you in the book.
Yeah.
So tell me a little about that. How did that happen?
well, that's a one of the books we're recently in. The world is always coming to an end. That's the name of the book, and it was basically speaking about neighborhoods and the transitions of different populations.
Right.
And they kind of went back to initially in Chicago. You had tribe before the Potawatomis, who are associated as being some of the original inhabitants.
Okay.
And then then the Potawatomi came and they like, oh, there goes the neighborhood. The world's coming to an end.
Right.
So that was the gist of the book. But specifically, myself and I mentioned my partner David Lemieux. There's like a chapter on myself and a chapter on him, and they basically sort out our views, and it's kind of connected to the topic that you're talking about today. How we saw the neighborhood and what was the perspective,
Right,
that we
right.
think it was going
Right.
to be, things of that nature. But
Wow, accolades on that. All righty. So let's get back to some of the topic because I know people have been tuning in, and this topic has been brought to me. A lot of people do want to talk about it. So again, for everybody that is out there right now watching, tonight's theme is why are our young brothers, specifically focus on the men today, of all races, but why are the younger people, the males, feeling like they want to give up? You know, and then this is very, 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 very serious. Last week, you know, we had dedicated a show to Daniel Del Conte, and it was basically saying that, you know, this young man took his life. For parents out there, we also want to make aware that there are rooms, chat rooms, and online. Basically, the internet has a lot of, I guess, what they call trolling now. And trolling is basically when people are putting you down and they're trying to dare you to do stuff or really getting on you. Trolling has a lot of different, you know, forms of it. But one of the things is what they do is it's a suicide room. So what they say is they dare these kids to commit suicide. And because of the big popularity of it, they're getting all these likes and stuff like that, and they chatting them on, they're trolling them to do it. Some of them do it, some of them try it and are unsuccessful, but it's almost like a dare. You know, a dare, double dare. There's no truth, it's just straight dare. And it's just for basically to live stream your death, basically, to see if you could pull it up. So what I'm saying is that's just one form of what we're talking about tonight. I guess, you know, that fits into some of this. But I just wanted to say that this is a time and an era today where these young men are faced against so many things in the streets that I wanted your input. Like, why are they so quick to give up?
Yeah, well, I definitely don't have all the answers. Some of the things, like you said, social media, I have to be honest and stuff. I try and stay attuned of it, you know, and I think I've had some better perspectives since I've been surrounded since the 70s of all these young men, you know, and I mean, I even have biological children as well, but I'm not, I won't be the first to tell you, I'm not as attuned to some of this stuff. And it's unfortunate because there are things happening. You really have to just be more attentive to the young people that I think that are around you, whether it's your nephews or this or that. You know, it kind of goes back to what I'm saying. I mean, the human connection. I mean, everybody wants to feel a sense of worth. I think it's like some basic human things that we want to feel a part of things. I mean, we talked about even gang association and stuff, and I tell people, they're like, oh, the gang members. I'm like, you know, so what? I mean, you know, I just tell all the kids, I don't care if you're in the, you know, the Girl Scouts of America. When you come here, you know, I explain to them, you know, that's not going to be the emphasis. I don't have a problem with it. You can, you know, continue to be in the Campfire Girls or whatever little social, you know, I mean, I'm just being facetious, obviously, but I didn't really flex on all that. You know, they join stuff, and as you know and stuff, you know, you're much more, you know, knowledgeable about some things about that. I mean, it's just like, you know, most of them are like hardcore nothing, you know. I mean, they throw these things. I mean, that's some of the things that people were critical about
I think a
the
lot
CPD with the database.
Right,
sure.
You know, here it is. You know, if these are the children that are that influenced, you know, to take their life, then obviously they're not as strong, you know, mind-wise as the average kid.
And see, now I'm glad you said that about strength, because this is the thing that I found raising all these young men and stuff. You know, you've seen some of the little guys, some of them like 6'8", and, you know, I mean, they look like, you know, specimens, you know, wonderful man-child specimens. Exactly. But a lot of them are very fragile. That's the thing about it. And this is what I used to try and explain to people. You know, we would talk about, Brother Isan, you know, even we talked about some of the basic things that I would make sure they get a state ID. It's ridiculous to me to run into people, unfortunately, in a arrest situation. They never even had a state ID, or some of them did. I think my grandmama got that. You know, I'm like, what? You're like 34 years old. What do you mean? You think your grandmama got your state ID? And some of them never actually had one. You know, initially I would like, hey, here's $20. Take these papers, go down here and get you a state ID. And then I'd see them like, you know, next week, hey, let me see that state ID, you know, and, well, I went down there and they threw this back at me. They said they don't take a medical card. I'm like, well, okay, that's a speed bump. But see, these kids reach a speed bump, and then that's it. They don't want to go back to the Secretary of State and get rejected again. And it's something simple. If it's shared with somebody like yourself, myself, okay, cool. They don't take that, then we'll take this, you know. And we can get past that. And you'd be surprised how proud of them. Someone getting a state ID was almost like they just got a college degree, you know, to see something that they've accomplished.
But that goes to show you, too, how fragile, you know what I'm saying, their upbringing is. And even though they want to claim hardcore, they're really unknowledgeable about the rest of society.
That's exactly it.
Real quick, we want to go to this overhead for you at home. This is definitely a way for you guys, you know, to get in touch with us. If you have younger people that would like to get their state ID, or tonight's theme is basically reaching out. Even though we're talking about why young men get despaired, if you want to call this number, you know, after the show, or just save this number, 312-834-8020, we would definitely help you out. We'll guide you in the right way, and we are working with young men, and we're helping ex-offenders, male and female, get jobs, as well as just regular people that are looking for just some type of quick work right now. So copy that down, 312-834-8020. And real quick too, I just want to, this show is all about, it may sound negative because we have to talk about the things that are getting these young men discouraged, but this show is about upliftment. So we always want to give shout outs and special love. You know, tonight, this is a time when we just give shout outs and special love to people who are along the way with us, who may not be here, who recently passed away, but we have people that will help them out and want to shed their light on their name. So this is this week's, and basically going to come up with a name of this. I right now I just call it the showing love part. You know, you know.
Nothing wrong with that.
That's right. So first of all, we'd like to say we have Richard Harrison in the house and Terrence Pouncey. Okay, so Richard Harrison and Terrence Pouncey, two brothers, you know what I'm saying, that are not here with us any longer, and they were brought to the table by Dominique Pouncey. Okay, and this is their sister, man. We love you, baby. Thank you for shedding light. Let's move along. We have Antoine, a.k.a. Ugg Dog. Man, I personally know, you know what I'm saying, this brother, good brother, man. We're sorry, you know what I'm saying. We love you to death, and you'll always be remembered. And these was brought to the table by, of course, his mother, you know, Ernestine Johnson. Love you too, Quinn. All right, moving right along. We have Darnell Moten, a.k.a. Don D. And this brought to the table by Queen JB, of course, you know, Jennifer Buchanan. All right, Don D, man, I know him too. Loved you, man. You're going to be remembered forever. And moving right along, we got Joseph Wade. Okay, Joseph Wade, love you, man. You'll be forever remembered. And this was brought to the table by his sis, Tanisha Long. All right, Joseph Wade, you in our heart, we love you. Okay, and moving right along, we have Connie Smith. And she was brought to the table by Deb Tyler. Now, I knew Connie. Great, you know what I'm saying, woman, mother to the land. You know, everybody knew her. Man, we love you, Connie. Man, you're going to live forever. All right, and then we have Irvinell Hodges, okay, and that's a.k.a. Snooki. Irvinell, we love you. And, of course, she's brought to the table by her loving son, Dante Hodges, that's my boy, from 14714. You guys will forever be, you know what I'm saying, around in cyberspace. You can always go to the show. We're showing you love. We love you, Irvinell Hodges, man. Much love. If you guys have anybody that you want to mention, you guys know how to get in touch with me. But moving right along.
I don't want to cut you off, but that's outstanding. You know, somebody said something many years ago that resonated with me. They said, even if you die, you never die. If somebody mentions your name even 50 years later, then you've continued to live on because you've sparked a memory or somebody took the time to research something that you did. And I think that's outstanding. I've never seen that done, and I really applaud you that you figured that you had to come up with a cool name for it, like you said, because that is outstanding. I've never seen anybody do that.
Thank you. Well, we're breaking new trends right here. We're going to do some new things that'll keep people, you know what I'm saying, tuning in and also just to show love, to let them know that, you know, we're here for them, man. This is what Ulon is all about. And I remember there was actually, back in the day, there was some officers that we had in Cabrini. They were called the Slick Boys. And we didn't like them, but we respected them because after a while, you know, they didn't even bother with locking us up anymore. They were just patrolling, and they had got into the rap scene. I know. And they were doing their thing.
Jimmy
and,
Martin and Davis and all them guys. Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, one was Raheem, one was 21. I think that was Eric, and then Eddie Murphy. Jimmy
Martin.
Exactly.
Yeah, and Eric Davis, I mean, played on that Five Slammer Jammer basketball team with Elijah Wan and them. Yeah, so it's like it said,
Small
you know,
world.
we applaud, you know, like it said, people that are connected to, and that's why, you know, I was on a radio show and they were asking about the homicide clearance rate being so abysmal, which means, not very many of them being solved. And one of the things that I pointed to is diversity. You know, I had a very successful clearance incarcerate. A lot of it is because people can talk to you.
Right.
You know, you have a large connectivity community. If you were serving as a homicide detective, people, they might not stand out there on 79th or Madison,
right.
but, you know, they'll get the word to
Right.
you, hey, man, that's not even what went down, you know.
Right, right.
And you can respect that. And unfortunately, we need that diversity in the ranks. And that goes back to, you know, kind of the initial conversation of why myself and David became the police, because you're not going to always affect changes just, well, I don't like the police and stuff. We didn't like the police that much either, you know. I mean,
Right,
the
'cause
police
y'all
didn't
was
like
on the other
us.
side of the
Exactly.
fence for so long,
But, you
yeah.
know, at some point in time, you know, we became, at least in their opinion, that was a better way to serve our community.
Right.
And why not, you know, be the police? Why not be the firemen and stuff, you know?
We definitely need more
those are-
minorities, and I've always been one to say that, hey, if you are going to become an officer of the law, then it's best that you serve your own community.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? If you can get that beat,
Yeah.
I think I applaud those officers out there, because our officers ain't bad. I'm
No,
gonna keep that
and that's
100.
it.
You know, those are going. It's just like the lawyers. You know, a lot of lawyers join the lawyer firm because they want to change the world.
Yeah.
They want to get their, but they want to represent the underdog, and then they get in there and they see how big the machine is. You know, and
Yeah,
it might not be the same thing with the police.
It's the same with the
Yeah.
police,
Yeah.
exactly. Most people out there say they don't join the police department. I want to get a gun and a
Right.
baton and go out here and bump people upside the head. You know, most of them come in with an altruistic outlook. They would like to do something good.
Right.
Like you say, they do get jaded, but a lot of it, you know, I talked about training, and even you're not going to have an all-black police department. That's not going to happen. But we need to be represented, and the people that don't look like us need to understand we need you to respect our community.
Right.
You know,
I know there's
get
a
out
rift
those.
inside the police force as well.
Well, yeah,
sometimes.
exactly.
Just in like in every even in the cooking field, even in the barbershop, whatever. There's gonna be a rift sometime with racial diversity. But I mean, that's anywhere. You
Well,
know
that's
what I'm saying?
exactly true. I mean, and it's unfortunately, you know, we're seeing it more and more. You know, with these recent administrations that have came on, I think have given a open voice to a lot more open racism and
Right.
things, and blatant things that you would be surprised. You know, and I've seen that, and a lot of the officers of color and stuff are having issue with that. So there is a big thing
Right.
going on in between. And again, like you said, it's really all about, you know, everybody hit the brakes. People need to come to the table and understand, you know, there's not going to be any absolutes. We're not going to have, okay, we only want black police here. These are not the realities,
Right,
you know,
right.
but we need
It's an
to
uphill
have
battle,
people,
right.
yeah, we need the people to understand that, like, respect the community. And that being said, people are quick to say about when the police don't respect the community, and I challenge it too. So a lot of brothers and sisters out in the
Right.
community not respecting the community too.
Right.
So they have to be challenged and held accountable as well.
Right. Now,
you
like
know.
I've always had this is one of the problems that I've had, right? A lot of times with me being an activist, you know, I can get on the scene, say for instance, there's a shooting, okay? And, you know, as long as it was like, say for instance, an officer
Yeah.
that, you know, say might have did something to a little black or Hispanic kid, then, you know, everybody's helping us out and they're
Sure.
all, you know, talking to them and all that. But as soon as it's a brother on brother crime,
Right.
it is so much harder. You know, we get out there, people are scared, people don't want to say anything, or, you know, they want to give us, you know, half
Yeah,
stories, or,
exactly.
you know, so,
And
and,
that's-
I'm trying to think like, well, what's the difference? I mean, if somebody took a life, we
Right.
need to get to the bottom of to try to come up with some peace. Because
Yeah.
you know I go deal
And
with a lot of gangs.
I know
too,
that. I understand
you know?
that. And, you know, like I said, that's the elephant in the room.
Right.
And we have to have open conversations. That's why we talk about open conversations around racial things that we need to have that about in our community as well. We have to be honest and say, hey, certain things that we tolerate in our community would not be tolerated in other communities.
Right.
You know, and that being said, and I'm all for holding the police. I'm retired from the police department for 10 years, you know. I don't have any allegiance to that, you know. I don't have to be their mouthpiece. But I'm saying, definitely I advocate change. These people that we're letting go unchecked and not holding accountable, your kid can't play out there on the sidewalk like, you know, maybe that we were able to do, you know, and that's ridiculous, you know. So I don't shy away from that. I tell people, no, we're gonna have accountability. We're gonna give you some support and love and, you know, and advocate for you, but at the same time, That's what I
Well,
think.
real quick, do you want to give any shout outs? You know what I'm saying? Anybody you want to thank along the way?
Well, I want to thank you, brother. You know, number
Appreciate
one,
that.
I mean, a lot of people don't even have any idea. I've seen you out there, you know, in person, and so that's it. You know, I mean, you could be feeding yourself, you could be taking care of yourself well, and you know, you don't have to do all that, but you do, you know, and so I definitely appreciate
it,
you,
man. God
brother.
bless you, man. All right, well, as always, I want to say much love to the Kellers. You know, we out here. Much love to Ulon, and thank you, everybody, you know what I'm saying, for tuning in. Again, 312-834-8020. We love y'all, man, and as I always say, man, each one teach one, and don't stop there. Until next week, man, always care about your community. Put Yeshua first, and you can't go wrong. Love y'all. Oh, and real quick, too, to my girl, Testimony Tammy, she couldn't make it, you know what I'm saying? We do want to start getting Testimony up in here, you know what I'm saying, as co-host from time to time. So be looking out for Testimony Tammy. She's doing some big things. And much love, sister. Again, each one teach one, and don't stop there. Peace. Holla.